Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here. It's the last class today, right?
Yep.
Is it the last for you for this whole semester, or you have a class tomorrow? One more. So it's not the last class for all of you. Tomorrow also I have a class. It's not the last. But we are meeting here in this semester for the last time today. Reach out for any queries if you have any questions on any gradings that you have received so far. Feel free to email me. If you want any particular feedback on something that you didn't submit as an assignment, but you did a work related to cinema or filmmaking or film criticism or film studies, just you want some feedback, feel free to reach out. Even if I don't respond within the semester time, maybe during the holidays I can respond to you if it's not connected to your finals, if it's not connected to this semester, this course particularly. Make sense? Yeah. Never hesitate to reach out to anyone, not only to me, whether to Professor Bear, me, anyone you know. It's always best to get feedback as much as possible, particularly for the kind of work we do. So that's what I'll say. And let's begin. So today I'll pick it up from where we left in the last class. We were trying to understand not what happens on screen, but how that happens, whatever is happening. What happens, we all know. So as a student of film making department or film studies department, or as a scholar of this discipline, we know how that happens. And kind of a short exercise we practiced briefly in Tablet, if you remember, some comments on Stutterer, that film that you wrote. And I wanted to kind of give a little feedback on how we approach what happens. So whatever is happening, to mention that is not a goal of a scholar or as a film critic or as a filmmaker. Rather to have those eyes, how that is happening and how to connect it with micro to macro level, like little things to big things, thematic, subtext, or little things like you want to talk about art direction, script writing, cinematography, whatever you want to talk about. So I'll show you some references. Most of you submitted or participated in that particular task, if you remember. Definitely, it was quite short period of time for me, so I couldn't give comments on everyone's submissions, but I wanted to pick up some examples from which we all can learn something. And I'll just directly shift to that direction. So if you all remember, so I picked up 6 comments and so that we can learn. So if I'm talking about art direction, what should I focus on? What would be my language? What kind of terminology I should really know? If I'm talking about cinematography, if I'm talking about editing, if I'm talking about script writing. So whatever areas we are picking up, character development, structure of the script, how should I approach it? So for instance, we have, by the way, all comments were nice, fine. It's not a criticism that I'm showing. It's just I'm showing definitely within those few seconds what I'll expect. You cannot write a whole criticism, but it will give me some lead, which I'm doing today, you know. So it's just an additional feedback I'm providing as a guideline that you can use later on, whether in your upcoming semesters or in your life or in your filmmaking life. So let's get started. The first comment is on character development. So I'm just highlighting the keywords. And when you're talking about character development, so student 1, let's say I just named it in that way. It talks about short films are not as characters focused, saying the feelings about this stutter change throughout felt very real. And while talking about this character development, it's 2 important key terms that we need to focus on. One is internal monologue, not only monologue. We can see monologue in many films. So what is internal monologue? In this case, this monologue sounds also very different because he's talking to himself. It's an introspective mood because he's always in his thoughts. That's the only way he can communicate the character, if you remember. Make sense what I'm saying? So we have internal monologue, and make sure whether you're making a podcast or you're writing an essay, you use the term. Another thing is, montage. And we know what is montage, I'm assuming. There are many kinds of montage. Serge Eisenstein's method of montage, like rhythmic montage, metric montage. In this case, we have, what I'm saying is tonal montage. Who can say what is a tonal montage?
It's a montage of shots that sort of establishes the tone of the sequence or the movie.
Okay. Can you give one example? Right on the top of your head, whatever comes up.
Well, in Stutterer, the sequence of when he's going to the date and the inner monologue is sort of clashing with itself, it sort of establishes this sort of anxious tone that matches the feelings the main character has.
Okay, nice response. Anyone else would like to respond with an example of what is tonal montage, please?
Wouldn't for the tree one, wouldn't that the entire thing basically be classified as a tonal monologue?
Which one? Oh,
Because technically it's just like just one giant infinite.
yeah, makes sense. What you're saying. Anyone else would like to say something? And how many of you are still unclear about tonal montage, kind of exactly pinpointing the definition and example of it? Feel free to raise hand. Okay, sure. So we'll start from scratch in that case. Here it goes.
Y'all do remember reading about
Is it ratchet?
book, right?
So now we'll look at kind of a bookish official definition of what is tonal montage and how it is used in the films that we regularly watch, or Hollywood films, mainstream films, examples that you can directly relate to. Let's have a look. There is another montage called overtonal. So I'll play both, tonal and overtonal, so that we get the difference. What is tonal and what is overtonal? And think of it how it is used in Stutterer when you see the examples and the definition, so that we can talk about it.
Based on the characteristic emotional sound of the piece. That's great, Sergey, but what exactly does it mean? Well, think of tone in this sense as any visual or oral characteristic that two different shots could share in common. An example from the more recent The Revenant perfectly illustrates not just one, but several instances of tonal montage in sequence. In the following edits, it is a motif of fogginess or haze that unifies the shots. There are other tonalities you can use as the basis for your montage as well. Wong Kar-wai uses graphical or compositional tonality as a basis for montage in his acclaimed In the Mood for Love, as both main characters are discovered at their writing desks, framed within the additional frames of the set architecture, tonally connected to the idea that they are both trapped alone in their circumstances. In these series of shots from Martin Scorsese's The Age of Innocence, light tonality drives the edits. In this cut from Apocalypse Now, oral tonality is utilized. Overtonal is by its nature more abstract and complicated than the methods discussed up until now. As Eisenstein puts it, from the moment that overtones can be heard parallel with the basic sound, there also can be sensed vibrations, oscillations that cease to impress as tones, but rather as purely physical displacements of the perceived impression. One scene famous for cross-cutting and rife with overtonal montage is the baptism sequence from The Godfather Part 1. Many themes, tones, and overtones intermingle in this sequence that treats violence as a holy writ, shows the connection between religion and corruption, and sanctifies the actions of a murderer. Filmmakers like Terrence Malick and David Lynch, famous for their poetic approach to filmmaking, where mood and tone supersede logic and plot, oftentimes rely heavily on overtonal montage. Eisenstein said intellectual montage is montage not of general physiological overtonal sounds, but of sound.
So we got an idea. Tonal and overtonal. We saw some examples. Now, to make our ideas more concrete, my question to you is, think of Stutterer, the film we watched in the last class. I can show one example, just freshen up your minds. By definition, as a word, literally, montage is a cut, assembling different shots. The question is, how do you decide how to assemble it? Where should I cut it and what should I add? So that's the thing, is montage. You can cut it based on different rhythms, different tones, thematic, ideological, intellectual, metaphorical. So whatever the reasons are, that's what montage is. Just clarifying for the basics. Good? So what would you say about this particular scene in terms of tonal montage? Is it tonal?
These are for you. I saw these. I brought
Think of the
these.
cuts.
Here's something for you. These flowers. This feels like a first day with my nose. Cosmetic surgery. Yeah, we had a little bit of work on some serial killer.
I hope you all remember. We just have seen it in the last class, so I won't play it all. Anyone has any comment on tonal and overtonal montage? Please.
I think it's more just regular tonal.
This one?
Yeah.
And how do you, so we have seen, let's say, the Reverend film, where the cuts are connected with fog shots, right? It was foggy, if you remember.
Okay.
Right? So how the cut is decided, like, let's have this fog shot, just the video that we just have seen. Yeah. So it was kind of foggy from his mouth, close shot, and then the sky shot we had from DiCaprio to the sky, and then the smoking shot, if you remember. So that was the kind of a driving force, right, for these three shots, connected with that tone. Make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah. So you're saying what is the connector here?
Right.
I suppose it would be less visual, more oral when it's connected through his internal monologues.
So let's put it in this way. So here, the connection is quite disconnected, right? It's jump cut. Technically, in the editing language, it's jump cut is happening. The audio is, that's why also is not in the same time as we talked in the last class. It's overlapping, multiple thoughts, multiple timeline voices, not the present time only. It's mixed present, past, future. Right? Here, what's the audio is playing on. And the visuals as well. So it's not a continuity shot. It's discontinuous. So I would say it has that overtonal attitude. It's not only one tone that is driving it. It has that overtonal attitude because his mental state is also kind of in that dilemma to meet her and not to meet her, to be and not to be. That is the question that's happening here. Anyone has any further comment on it? We got a little idea about tonal montage. Please, yes.
I would say there is some visual effect on it because it always, every scene has him and it's, when he's in the middle, whenever they jump cut, he only slightly moves to the side. It's never like from fall left, fall right side when they do jump cut.
Nice, okay.
So I think they're trying to also focus on him while doing that.
Talking about visuals, thank you. So the next response will kind of lead us to this discussion in depth. So one student is commenting on art direction. I thought it's interesting to pick it up. And you can see when we talk about art direction, we are actually talking about the mise en scène. So my response, by the way, you all have access to this doc. And how will you access it? I'll show it to you by the end of the class, if you cannot yet. But the QR code I showed in the last class in the end, that should give you access to this file as well. Just letting you all know if you want to log into the present time right now, in real time. So when we're talking about art direction, it's important we mention mise en scène. Particularly here, let's say someone was saying letters all around the character. right? In his work studio, which is kind of a paradox because he cannot speak and he works with letters. And that paradox, how it is visually established and settled. And when we're talking about mise en scène, if you're using the term mise en scène, it's also important in our direction, we should talk about then how the lenses are used. So cinematography is also aligned with it because we see shallow focus and deep focus in this film, intentionally designed in a significant way. So my question to you is, we know what is shallow focus and deep focus? Anyone would like to explain a little bit? Please.
So when something is like in shallow focus, it's like one thing is like very focused on screen, while everything is kind of blurry.
Correct.
But when it's in deep focus, everything is kind of in focus.
Including the background and
Yes,
surrounding.
yeah.
So now I'll show you two examples. So when you're writing about the art direction or mise en scène, for instance, let's see the work studio. It was not a static shot. If you remember the close shots, all were static, close shot of space. And I can show you an example of the close shot. So you can compare the two shots right now. For example, this one. Shallow focus. But the other shot we just have seen is in deep focus. We can see the background of the work studio. This is static, that is in motion. Make sense what I'm saying? And it was intentionally designed in that way. Throughout the film, you'd see these references. That in the work studio, the art direction is designed in a way it wants you to see how the letters kind of is creating that paradoxical world for him. Make sense what I'm saying? So we need to use not only talking about this paradox of letters, but also we need to show the readers as a critique when we are writing or speaking about it that we are from this discipline. So we know what is shallow focus and deep focus, and we kind of break it down in our writing or in our podcast. Make sense?
Can I add to that with what you all were watching with this? Think about the story itself. This shot, this is his personal space, his personal world that we're dealing with. If you go throughout the film, the opening shot, when he's trying to speak to the person on the phone, that's his personal space. Every time he has to interact or be in the real world, like with his father, with him at work, with him standing outside smoking, it's all deep focus, right? Very intentional to show how personal this thing is to him. So.
Yeah, that's also a very good point. So thank you so much for sharing. I mean, I was about to show this, just reminded me to pick up this point from, where is this, father, right? And what strikes me most here also, I mean, definitely we have everything in focus. I guess he's the only one, the father character we see, who kind of makes an eye contact with the protagonist, so that you can understand this character. We see his eyes looking at him. So that's an interesting one. Just thought of it. It has nothing to do with that direction we have been talking about, but let's see. And always mention two more important things. When you're mentioning the character name, who played the character in parentheses. Okay? So for example, here Greenwood, Matthew played the character. And then timestamps, if you're referring to particular spots, that always helps. When you're speaking about it, you don't have to write. I mean, when you're writing, timestamp matters. When you're speaking, you can speak about it. That's fine as well. The next reference is writing. And I really like this response because it talked about different modes of communication. In the response, the student said, you already figured it out. The red one is the student's response, and the green one is my response, giving a little feedback. So use different forms of communication like sign language, letters, letterpress, texting. We have that a lot, like texting, online, typing, So all sorts of communication we have at play here. That's an interesting thing in this whole production. Another interesting thing is, we didn't talk about it last time. My question is, this character has been given with one special skill. We don't know that's right or wrong. Anyone remembers? Please.
Isn't that the circle thing? But in this case, is was the Stutterer, that was negative technically.
No, I mean, as a character, he's a smart character. How do you know that?
Oh,
yeah.
Like when he judges people, like he says like snap judgment 1, snap judgment 3.
Like Sherlock Holmes, he
Yeah.
kind of sees and he kind of judges. I won't say judges, reads. He reads. Well, judging is a different topic, but he kind of reads characters like Sherlock Holmes. Make sense what I'm saying? We have seen a lot of references in the bus stop, in the bus stand, right? And even when he's waiting outside in the street, he reads people. And that's a significant character if you're talking about character development and script. We already have talked about Dan Harmon's story circle, so I'll not go there. But that's one point I wanted to highlight when we are talking about this character development and screenplay. We see this contrast. There's a huge contrast. Like he cannot communicate, but he reads people well. It's a contrast. That makes a character more vibrant. So this vibrancy we are talking about is not in color, by the way. The whole film is not vibrant in color. Someone also talked about color. But the vibrancy is in his smartness, the way this character was designed, who cannot talk, but is really brilliant, the way he communicates to us. The next student responded to color. And that's fascinating. I didn't even think of it while watching it to talk about color. And then after reading this response, I went back and watched it again. And now my question is, I'll show you some examples of scenes as well. So we have yellow, according to the response, and bluish tones in the film. Now, do we know the prime colors? Who could say, please? Yeah.
Red, yellow, blue.
So we have red, yellow, blue. Now let's have a look at the scenes, just to refresh our minds. So for example, we have yellowish and bluish, okay, for 45 and 11:50. And let's see if there is a meaning out of it or not. So what kind of tone we have here?
Yellow.
Yeah, why you guys are not speaking? yeah, it's yellowish, definitely. And I'm sure many of you might be video editors already, right?
Yeah.
So you guys have good ideas about grading, if you did it practically. So here we have yellow tone. Now, what was the sequence or context? Just play a few seconds. This is the context. And the context is comfortable context or something uncomfortable for the character.
Uncomfortable.
Anyone would like to say something else?
I think just unfamiliar. So like he doesn't know whether he's comfortable or not with that.
And that's, as far as I remember, that's the first time when he kind of had a glitch, right? A shift in his comfort zone. Another example. Do you guys remember the bus sequence?
Oh yeah, I didn't remember that sequence.
I'm not talking about color grading now. What colors we see on screen in the frame in real time there.
Yellow.
Right, so, I should actually put the light a little down, right?
It does do a little reflection. Oh, that is way.
Right? So we have a blue-yellow mixture. The jeans is blue. If I'm right, correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Do you guys know that if you mix this two, you get green? Huh? Which we won't get it here because it's kind of that liminal state. You know what is liminal? In between. It's in that in-betweenness. His psyche, this character, everything is in that in-between state. So it hardly shifted to, unless just that sequence with the father, where we had green leaves in the background.
He's wearing green.
Right?
In this scene, he's wearing green and green's up.
Oh, yes. Right? So, but rest of the scene's kind of divided in this pendulum. Green, bluish, yellowish, playing with it. Have a look at the last shot. The girl, what the girl is wearing. She got blue, right?
It's purple.
It's bluish.
And you know what is purple when you mix
You get purple.
red and blue? That will become purple. So color is at play here. Something is happening with color. And if you're talking about color, definitely you should talk about also who was the costume designer if you're talking about the costumes or the characters. So mention those names, do a little bit of research. Everything is available in IMDb. You can get those names from there. So the point was to show how film can really, it's infinite ways you can approach a cinema. Only on colors you can actually write a whole paper about this film. It's designed in that way. Isn't it interesting?
Now I can't remember what color the flowers were.
And if you know color theory, it's like if you are adding these, it will never be vibrant. If you want vibrant, then not the prime colors. It's the secondary colors that you're adding that you have to add. You know? So let's say red and yellow becomes orange, right? And let's say red and blue becomes purple. So if you are using orange and purple, then it becomes vibrant. Let me show an example before I move to there. As we're talking about colors. Let's say.
What about complementary colors?
Do you guys know pointillism?
I know it's filing.
So we don't have this much vibrant color in this film. The vibrancy is in the character. There we have that paradox and vibrance. But in color, it's quite liminal, always in between, and in an opaque state. An interesting response, one of the responses, as we're talking about colors, one student responded on the color of the film, My Tree, that's student production. And then I realized it makes sense. So this response was saying, is it this one? Yeah, correct, this one. That short production, student production, started with palette and painting and kind of made a meaning out of it. How that green represents growth and transformation, which we see in the end, and started with blue and yellow-ish tones in the palette. Just referring to it, if you're talking about colors, make sure you know the whole color theory and the prime colors and what it becomes and what it means and how it plays on. Do you see a transformation throughout the film? What is happening? Have a look at those intentional choices. And This last response was really interesting and quite stood out to me when you're talking about a comparative analysis. May I ask who responded to this? Who was this one? Oh, please. Because I didn't know about Out of My Mind, would you like to talk a little bit about Out of My Mind?
I mean, it's a novel I read when I was like in 5th grade. It was about this girl who was like a math prodigy.
There's a film on this also, by the way. It's available in Disney.
And she has cerebral palsy, which means she can't properly communicate how she feels about things, how she wants to, what her thoughts are on things. And that's one of the main internal conflicts she has to deal with throughout the course of the book. And I sort of paired that with Greenwood's struggle to.
That's very great. That's very great. I already talked about earlier when I lectured, if you remember, there are various ways you can take, and one of these ways. So kind of I try to pick those examples of different kind of approaches. One of them is comparative analysis. If other references come to your mind, other films, from the same filmmaker, other filmmakers, other references that perfectly aligns, if it's a novel, short story, or other kind of art that, or a painting, it could be even painting. So there are many artists and filmmakers who are influenced by certain painters, look up to those movements, art movements that kind of influence that filmmaker to make that film, or had a stylistic influence that could be possible. So always, it's good to have that broad understanding and comparative analysis. I'll show you one short today. If we get time, I'll try to show two at least. But one short that was made in 2008. And when I first watched it, I watched it in 2010 possibly, or 9 and 10. It kind of aligns with what Stutterer is doing. That's a good film as well, but didn't win or nominated in the Oscars like Stutterer. The Stutterer is this one is really, really technically and conceptually well made. Now, as you can see while talking about it. So let's have a look at, from this comparative analysis to similar kind of what other productions are there at play. How many of you have watched this short called Signs by Patrick Hughes? Did we?
This sounds strangely familiar.
And there are lots of similarities you'll find with Stutterer. Have a look at it, how they exercised it. But it's quite long ago.
I say to Colin that if my stocks are as bad as he swing, we're not talking a hole in one, we're talking a hole in two.
It's your mother. Your father and I are here with Uncle Pete and Auntie Sally. Everyone's been asking about you. We all miss you so much. How is everything in the city? Oh, I bet you're having an amazing time surrounded by all those people. Oh, call us when you get in. You're probably out partying with friends. Or girlfriends. You're always being silly again. Anyway, call us. We love you.
So, pretty simple one. Not even high budget. What's your feelings?
The best out of the three.
Sorry?
I think that's the best out of the three that we've watched.
Really?
Yeah.
Awesome. Good to know that. Anyone else would like to share something that one you picked up? I like it as well. It's pretty simple and very well made. I like the sound of it. The way the music is composed, definitely that has to stand out because there's no dialogue happening. But I don't want to throw words. I want to listen to you first of all. Please.
Pretty straightforward of all the ways they communicate with each other and all that.
Yeah. What else? What other things you have observed? Anyone can speak up. No, I don't know the joke for.
Did I say the film Bark?
Yeah.
Yeah, it reminds me of that also. Same type of storyline, but a different way to tell it.
It's a good way to learn how directors approach a story. When you put the crisis, how do you put the drama, how do you put the conflict, and the way you get to know the character. So it's a short film of 12, 30 minutes, right? So far, whatever we have watched, particularly these two, Stutterer and Science. And you see, you can connect with the story, the character's journey, what the characters feel. And how do you do that? That's important to know how that is portrayed. So now as you see it, the way it has been made, I'm sure whoever filmmakers are here, you can also make the same approach. Like it's not like you need a big budget and big team to tell a story like this. It's just you need to think in that way. Think of the way the refrigerator is used, like as a props. And every day putting all the dialogues there on the refrigerator. That direction in that particular way, I would say, really stand out to me. It's very important. How the character is feeling is portrayed through other props. Please.
I'd say in this, I felt worse for him whenever like the big conflict where like she disappeared than I did in Stutterer, because in Stutterer, not like obviously I felt bad, but it was like kind of his fault because he didn't respond.
Right.
And then in this, it's like he was gonna, and then she just disappeared. She got promoted, and I thought that made me feel worse for him because you always feel worse when it's not their fault that they couldn't do anything about it.
That's because you're seeing the film from his perspective.
Yeah.
You know, so who kind of became the victim for the time.
Yeah.
For that
Actually,
moment.
it was his fault.
I mean, yeah, but
It was the same way with the other guy. He hesitated. It wasn't saying he wasn't
Right.
taking off,
right.
but should have just.
But he had it ready.
But he didn't pull the trigger.
She also didn't talk to her.
She got whisked away in like 10 seconds.
But that's what I'm saying.
He didn't
Whenever you have an
respond.
opportunity,
But
you
Stutterer
got
didn't
to
respond for like
take it.
3 days. He was nonchalant.
Let me kind of add something on this argument. He hesitated. That's true.
He did, but he was
Right?
ready to do it. And he didn't take 3 days to do it. Like he came in the next day, he was like, yeah.
But now that what it teaches us, a few seconds late can make the days worse, right? You know. So submit your assignments on time. I'm joking.
Stutterer,
Yeah.
it took him like days to respond. So I was like, damn, this dude. Like I felt bad for the girl. I was like, she was excited, and she got ghosted. And this,
Yeah, definitely the time
he
is
was
different.
writing, and then he was like, he's taking that little second, and then the manager comes in and whisks her away, and he's like, damn.
But you can connect the philosophy, like the psychological conflict, hesitation in both these cases, and the way it starts and then the way it ends, and the conflicts, the way the story is designed. So these kind of productions or short ones particularly help us as a new filmmaker to write a script, to think of our story based on that. I mean, you can also fit into that Dan Harmon's story circle, how all those things, 8.8 frameworks function in this case. Okay, particularly this one more short, a short that in this film which really stood out. So when you're designing it and you were into the production, the way you are planning for your shot divisions, so you're planning which shot should be, kind of perfectly fitting or justifying this particular scene and emotion. And one really stood out to me. We had mostly static shots. Do you remember here? It's not static, it's in motion. That kind of build up a different emotion. Yeah. Because the camera is kind of moving in both directions, cut to cut.
I think also I kind of forgot there was no dialogue until you said it.
Not at all.
Because there was the one where they were laughing.
As an ambient noise,
Yeah.
all that was
But
came
other
out.
than that, I was like, at the beginning I was like, oh, they're not going to talk this entire time, and then by the end I forgot, and they did it like that's just because the signs were.
Right.
You didn't need it.
And it also kind of makes us feel, so when I was first watching it in 2010, as I was saying, I felt, so let's say if I don't have proper audio recording devices, access to things, I don't have proper audio recording in real time, then this is the style. You can just play with the music and ambient. You're not recording dialogues in real time. But a beautiful story you can save it. Make sense? Any questions?
I do real quick. Who back here, because I heard somebody laugh, the first time you put on the thing on the refrigerator, people laugh.
Yeah, that's a good
Why
one.
did you laugh?
I thought it was a little
Cheesy?
well, like it was a little creepy. You
How
he
did you-
just talked to her, not put up his own, and it's different. Like she get him a note.
Right. He
That
put
would
up
be
his
like,
own note,
okay,
right.
yes,
Okay, I'm with you with that. Yeah.
Right. It's. I mean, they didn't meet. He cannot put up her notes.
No, I get you.
Right.
I don't remember what they talked about.
No, the first thing was just like,
This dude's life was so boring.
yeah.
And he finally had something. He was like, "Damn, I can." Have you ever been to a dude's house when they live by themselves? When I live with my dad.
Preach it.
When I lived with my dad, we had a couch and old ass recliners, and the one thing of decoration we had. You know what? I don't even think we did. We didn't have bed frames. We didn't. Oh God, he was so not caring. He put a black sheet over the window because he was not buying curtains. That's how dudes are when they live by themselves. And this dude, like, I finally got something that I could actually put up.
Well, he's got to talk to her.
It's not in all cases. Some of us have organized.
But like, if you're a dude by yourself, it's not for everybody, but.
But you can see the characters here in Stutterer and in this character signs. I mean, in both cases.
This dude's house was so boring, and his life was clearly boring because he was doing the same shit every day, and he was like, he hated the people.
Right.
If a guy did that for you, you'd be jumping for joy.
No, if I went over to his apartment and saw the first note I'd be like, you're weird.
Y'all some haters. This dude was happy.
Haters.
This dude was happy. The one who's happy in life, he puts them on the fridge and he's happy.
You would go home and hang that thing up.
That girl who said she liked him first, so definitely, I bet.
All right, then y'all have this plastic glass.
Yeah, it's fine. I mean, definitely there's gonna be different opinions.
I don't know.
Yeah. But in this case, we have a character that does this thing. It's not as promoting or as glorifying. It's just the character, and we gotta know how the character thinks. This character is really depressed.
Yeah, and he's embraced. Like,
Right.
Oh wow, there
shout out back here.
No, let's not put that back here, please. But you can see how this character is kind of, I would say it's convincing when he is doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely you won't expect it in Wolf of Wall Street when DiCaprio is doing it. That doesn't fit. You know? So you have to see how you pick your character. Whose story you're telling. Here it's convincing in Stutterer as well, the way the character was, and this character as well. It's a different character, you know. Another film from this kind of same genre. But before moving to that, I should let you guys give access to everything that I have presented so far. So please do it. Scan it. It will take you.
the right side of the screen to right as well.
It will take you to this side. This is the side. If you scan it, it should take you to the side. And if you cannot go there, we'll do a few more things. But before that,
before I end, I thought I should show it to you. Please, yes?
At the end of your presentation, it says that we have to go to a maximum of 3 to 5 sentences.
Oh, there. I'll respond to that. Just give me a second. Yeah. I thought I should explain it. That's why I put it out. We all scanned it?
Yep.
Anyone wants me to put it for longer period of time? Or good? We can switch there. It should take you here. So we all are here. We all here, right?
What is this website?
So this is a site. And in this site, I have the materials that usually I kind of play around when I lecture or do workshop with filmmaking or film studies in classes. You have all the materials in access. What we did today, this was the last time what we did. So we're kind of trying to switch our roles as beginner critique to an intermediate critique. And within this journey, this is what the doc file is. My question to all of you is, if you can access it, and does it pop up? It opens. As I had given some linguistic feedback, I was just wondering you have access to it or not.
Yeah.
You can?
Yeah.
Sure. Definitely we are not switching to the advanced level of criticism, but I have kind of from your assignments, a few responses I just copy pasted, which is good for practice. What we did so far, kind of make it a rule if you really want to progress in this field and having those eyes and the expertise of a scholar, you have to practice it. It doesn't come up, doesn't matter how awesome you are as a filmmaker or as a scholar. If you don't practice it, it will not come up like that. You got to practice a little bit at least every day. Not only watching a film, but seeing it. What is the difference?
The difference is perspective.
When you see it, that means you're studying it. You know, it's not only you're watching it as an audience. You are a scholar in this discipline. So that makes a huge difference. And you got to practice it. So you can also comment on this site. This is an interactive site, by the way. Like, you can see a comment button. But if you don't log in, it will not allow you to comment. So I'm not telling you to log in. Not necessarily you have to use IUID, whatever you use. It can be any Gmail and anything. If you feel like you want to comment on something and you want a question for me that I should respond, feel free, anytime. The site should be available. You feel free anytime, like during the holidays, next semester, whatever. Even if I'm not TAing, even if I'm not here. Feel free to post a question, I can reply. Okay? That's one thing. And some heads up for what is the advanced level of criticism. Definitely will not get that time to practice, but have you watched Paolo Sorrentino's Youth? So when you watch it, have you watched, let's say, Wonka Wai? Any film? In the Mood for Love? Okay, you watched one. Nice. So now what? Spiking. In this course, we had a spiking course.
Yeah.
Right. Did you guys watch Do the Right Thing?
No, I think
Yes.
you watched,
She's gonna have it.
She's gonna have it. All right. The names I just have mentioned. So Sorrentino, Italian filmmaker, but this was a Hollywood film. Michael Caine was the protagonist. So all of them have different significant one style, which is kind of the signature, whether you call it short division, mise-en-scène, writing. So they have their own style. If you see 5 of their films, you can connect the style. You can easily read it. So what I'm saying, it's called auteur theory, which means I made my own terms. If you are making your own terms. So the difference is, studio productions usually don't have it. Like, let's say, Disney, Marvel, big studios, Universal Studios. They have their own style. It's not the director doesn't matter. It's directed film by those big studios. But the names I'm mentioning, so let's say this one, it was Oscar nominated. His previous film was won Oscar, The Great Beauty. He's one of my favorite filmmakers, and Wong Kar-wai as well. So I'm mentioning 2 auteur filmmakers who kind of made their own terminologies. The reason I'm talking about it, if you talk about any auteur filmmaker, any auteur, then you have to know certain terms that they made, because it will not fall into the terms that we just have talked throughout the course. They created their own, so it's not generic. whether you call it some short names, editing styles, the typical standard study that we have. It will not fit into auteur filmmakers always. They took it to the advanced stage for their own films. Definitely they have those things. I'm not saying they don't have match cut. I'm not saying they don't have jump cut, but they kind of created their own formula of storytelling. And if you watch those, so let's say it's called, for Wong Kar-wai, if you have watched Wong Kar-wai, it's called step printing. He has it, he plays with paces, slow motion and fast motion and spooky and violence. And he creates it for particular purpose and thematic reasons. So everyone has, any auteur filmmaker has certain kind of style. If you watch Youth, you can easily see it's really different than the other traditional films we watch. So when you're writing and speaking about auteur filmmakers, my concern is, and request is, look for their stylistic choices. Don't just jump into the story and the traditional way we decide the way we have talked about those terminologies, because they have their own. So I'm not going into detail right now, but if you feel like you want to read, you can have access to this PDF. I'm just throwing some terms that we need to know if we want to watch Youth, for example. Michael Caine played a brilliant character here. So what is penismo? We need to know penismo. It is really extremely vividly exercised in this film. So we need to know certain, for example, what is Neo-Baroque? Neo-Baroque came from painting, art movement it was. So how we exercise that in cinema, you know? So those kind of terms we need to know in those cases. Let's not panic and go in detail right now. Just throwing it out in future, definitely you'll have a lot of auteur filmmakers and films in your courses. So make sure you mention those things and study those things. This is another link from Wong Kar-wai's film and what is step printing and why he makes that dreamy kind of sequences in his styles. And to respond to your question, who asked me, there's a little task in the end. The task is not for you guys. The task is a generic task. If I get a chance to talk about or to lecture about advanced criticism of cinema, then usually this is the task. I try to practice with the students and they respond in Padlet in a similar way and I respond there, kind of editing their responses. Make sense what I'm saying? It's not for you guys. There's no assignment for this.
Okay.
Feel free, chill. So that's Do the Right Thing. And what we have in Do the Right Thing is, you'd see, how many of you have watched Do the Right Thing? Nice. So we have a few students. Just as a sample, I wanted to show one thing. Do you have time? Yeah, we have time. So let's see one sequence. Let's say 45.
Angie, okay. It was hard to remember this.
Have a look at the shot. Just 5 minutes we'll watch.
Where are we headed?
You going down south?
I gotta make some deliveries. I'll check back there, right?
Pretty bad.
Alright. Oh shit! Can we check it out? That's the hike!
Newest latest. He tell you the story of right hand and left hand. It's a tale of good and evil. Hey, it was with this hand that Cain iced his brother. Love. These 5 fingers, they go straight to the soul man. The right hand of love. The story of life is this. Static. One hand is always fighting the other hand. And the left hand is kicking my chins. I mean, it looks like the right hand of love is finished. But hold on, stop the pressure, the right hand's coming back. Yeah, he got the left hand on the ropes now, that's right. Yeah, oh, it's a devastating right hand, is hurt. Down, oh, left hand, hey, KO, my love. I love you. I will. But if I ain't, here it is, love and hate. I love you. You know what I mean? Check it out. Here.
Right. No service till you turn that shit off. Too right. Turn it up. The radio while eating. I can't even hear myself speak. You want to stutter in me. You want to serve in my customers.
Two slices. You come into Sal's, there's no music. No rap, no music, no music, no music. Capiche? Understand?
Yo, put some extra mozzarella on that motherfucker and shit.
Extra cheese is $2.
So what significant thing you watched here, like as we can put it as a style of Spike Lee, not a traditional dialogue sequence between two people, please.
Once he entered the pizza shop, everything became a lot less stable. Like he used like a lot of uncomfortable close-up shots.
Do you guys know what the name of the shot is?
The Triangle.
The Triangle. Perfect. Yep. Anything else? Anyone else? The music is Fight the Power by Public Enemy. You can Google it. Good song. The song that was being played in the back. So when you're talking about the scene, there is a reference of a real song. That is not a song for the film. That's a Public Enemy song. Fight the Power. You can mention that why that has been used, in which context. There is a historical connection to it as well, please.
So it's used because the person of all the people that sounds like no pizza, no pizza. Or no music, no music. And so Fight the Power is literally in that instance against the rule.
Yeah. Have you watched the whole film, by the way?
What?
The whole film?
I have not seen the whole film.
You'll enjoy it,
the song.
definitely, yeah. So we can understand racism at play in this film. So the question is how each director has their own style, and as we have seen the film, Spike Lee has his own style of constructing a film, of designing it, whether the way he uses music, the way he uses the cinematography and style and mise-en-scène. And it kind of stands out, literally it stands out. Apart from the script, definitely there is a script, a storyline going on, character development is going on, but he has his own stylistic devices and choices. So that's what I was trying to say. One more short that I'll not show you now, but I would request you to watch it. Okay. That's called The Silent Tide. It's a little tragic. It's a short. Like Signs is not tragic. Stutterer is not tragic. But same thematic line we would see in The Silent Child. And it's an Oscar-winning production, by the way. The center character is a child, so the film that you're mentioning, you can also relate to it. The novel that you mentioned, right? Yeah. So that's my final suggestion to all of you. Thank you so much. It has been a wonderful semester. Feel free to reach out for any queries and questions. Have a great December. Happy holidays.
Thank you very
Nice try. Yeah, I live on the street. It has a sign Alright, let's go for it. Let's do the fish next.
I only start enjoy your best your day.
Yes, it depends on the day. When the big because I and watch YouTube like the characters.
Yeah.
It's not even about 10-year-old $5 show
Thank you.
You said you described that though. That's the first trailer. You said it's sad, it's got a child in it, it's called a silent child. Right. Something tells me it's gonna be very simple. Excellent having you as a TA.
Really, thank you so much. Have a great.
Any questions, I'll email
Sure,
you.
please feel free. Feel free. Thank you.
That's not my technical. This is not my technical stack.
I was embracing.
Yeah, let's do something outside. Because I can hear what you're about to say is over here. And she was like I would do I would do first and middle if it was like 3 letters. But like I was talking to her about it and she was like, look at